Well, hello again there, everybody. It's a regional night, and had a instant classic game tonight at U Indy Cathedral and Ben Davis. Ben Davis wins it 27-24 on a late field goal by Ben Rudolph. Puts Ben Davis ahead with 2:38 left. 40-yarder, and he had all of that and some. About probably would have been good from about 45. uh, Maybe a little bit farther than that. Talking to Ben after the game, he said, it's one of those things where he missed one early. He came back and hit one from 25 in the first quarter, and but we talked to him about his teammates and kind of they get in his face at practice. At the end of practice, he kicks about 6 to 8 or so at the end of practice, and you know how that goes. It's all hands on deck trying to get in his face, trash talk him, uh, you know, help him, to get ready for moments like that. And he came through big time tonight for Ben Davis. So kind of goes to show you again just how crucial kickers can be, how crucial punters and special teams guys can be, and Ben Davis in the past. There's been years where they've had really good kickers. There's been years where they haven't. And a night like tonight is when it really shows up. But 27-24, Cathedral was down 10-0. Kind of looked like they might get run out of the building a little bit. They came right back. Long drive, 94-yard drive. They scored on a 20-yard run by Jalen Bonds, made it 10-7. Ben Davis, right before halftime, somehow Thomas Gajkowski got a 13-yard touchdown pass to Nate Williams. I'm not sure how Williams got to that ball exactly. It looked like could be intercepted. Cathedral had a chance to make a play on that, couldn't make it. So it's 17-7 at halftime, and felt like Cathedral had played pretty well in the second quarter, but then let that play get away there at the end where Williams scored. Kind of felt like Ben Davis was in a pretty good spot, despite Cathedral's defense playing better throughout the second half. Second half of the first half anyway, the second quarter, to kind of shut down their offense a little bit. But first part of the third quarter, Cathedral turned it over immediately. They were driving, turned it over. The ball kind of bounced down, went into the end zone. Ben Davis recovered it, but the momentum of the play. Actually, they recovered at the 1. So it comes back out to the 1. That was very fortunate for Cathedral because Ben Davis backed up. They couldn't move it at all, punted. So Cathedral had great field position at the 28. They cashed in on a field goal to make it 17-10, and then did their onside kick that they've been doing. Everyone knew it was coming. They did it again and got it. Kind of like they did last week against Lawrence North every kickoff. They didn't onside every kick, but you kind of knew in that moment, that it was coming. They got it. They come down and score again. Zach Meeks, 25-yard touchdown pass from Danny O'Neill, makes it 17-all. And then it's sort of just on from there. It felt like the game got increasingly better from that point. It just, Cathedral's defense was up to the task. Ben Davis would drive some and then couldn't finish drives. So it was just kind of a battle from that point forward. And then at a point in the third quarter, Danny O'Neill got sacked and, was sort of writhing in pain on the ground. He got up, walked off, but definitely limping. Talking to him after the game, he said it was his knee. Seemed pretty serious when he came out. And then, but then he would come back in and kind of carry himself out there. And really an impressive performance by Danny O'Neill. But anyway, right after he got hurt that initial time, Elijah Price on the next play scores on a 48-yard touchdown run. So that put Ben Davis ahead 24-17. Cathedral comes back again and scores again to make it 24-24 with about 10 minutes left in the game. That was a incredible, the play of the game really, just by, what the play looked like was Devon Slaughter made about a 30-yard reception on a pass from O'Neill. O'Neill rolled to his left, threw it back kind of over the middle of the field, and Slaughter basically caught the ball on the back of a defensive back for Ben Davis. It was trying to remember who that was again. It was Yassine Falk who had an interception also in the game, but somehow Slaughter caught. I don't know if I've ever seen a catch quite like that. He caught it on the defensive back's back. So an incredible catch that put him down to the one. Keith Long scored on the next play, a 1 yard run, and then it was 24 all with about 10 minutes, a little over 10 minutes left in the game. So then both teams punted. Ben Davis got the ball back in really good field position and did just enough to get the ball set up at about the, just inside about the 25, 23-yard line. They set it up for Ben Rudolph's kick from the right hash, and he drilled it. It was no doubter. Put it through, and again, you got a kicker like that. I mean, it's such an advantage in games like this. If you don't have a kicker, and both these teams had good ones, but if you don't have one, man, it's just such an uphill climb. But anyway, he hits it. But Ben Davis, they weren't out of the woods just yet. Cathedral came right back down, and they got the ball down to the 24. A false start pushed the ball back, and Cathedral was out of timeout. So they're at the 29 with 21 seconds left. You're kicking sort of into the wind. It was kind of a swirling wind, but I would say the wind was in their face more than it was helping them at that point. So, you probably think you've got to get at least half. You're at the 29, maybe get about half that to have a good chance at a field goal or at least 10 more yards or so. On the next play, though, and they were out of timeouts, like I said, so your options are a little bit limited. O'Neal threw into the end zone or close to the end zone. He was looking for Zach Meeks, and actually, if the ball is thrown a little bit underthrown, maybe Meeks has a chance to catch it, but he threw it just over the outstretched arm of Meeks, and Alvin Contreras made the interception in the end zone. So that ended it with 14 seconds left. Ben Davis able to run the clock out from there, obviously just kneel it with Cathedral out of timeouts, and that was the end of the game. 27-24, Ben Davis wins it. Again, just a credible, game. Just, second half was really good. Felt like a heavyweight fight, like it was. And, Cathedral, I thought, and Bill Peebles said after the game, we felt really like we left it all out there, and they definitely did. It was certainly a memorable game, and I think Ben Davis, man, I mean, you come out of this, and Ben Davis plays Center Grove now, but, man, you have a game where you battle like crazy like that, and they had to beat Brownsburg, kind of a similar battle type of game, a similar score even, 28-25 in that one, 27-24 in this one, so feel like they've really been through some stuff here in these last few weeks. It seems like a little bit of a team of destiny, but guess who you run into next week? It's Center Grove. So really no time to, think about this one anymore. You put it aside and move on to what you've got coming with one of the best, matchups you'll see with Center Grove and Ben Davis next week. So looking forward to that. That game will be at Ben Davis, by the way. So Ben Davis gets the home game this time. Cathedral ends its season, and Danny O'Neal's career, and he'll have many of the records at Cathedral. For his career, we had a sensational career, obviously, and I'll have a little bit more on him in Monday's wrap up. But just an outstanding performance by him. Gutsy, gutsy by Cathedral, gutsy by Ben Davis. It was a game where there was really no screw-ups or big, things. And you always like to see that. There's no goats out there. No, it wasn't a screw-up by any means. So just a really good game, really good high school football game. So, yeah, Ben Davis moves on. They'll play Center Grove, like I said, next week. The other matchup, Center Grove, by the way, they beat Warren Central 14-0. So that was sort of a surprising score, too, just to mention that. It was 0-0 at halftime. And Center Grove they got a 38-yard touchdown pass from Tyler Cherry to Noah Coy for the first touchdown. That was right away in the third quarter, I think their first drive of the third. And then They scored another touchdown. Coy caught another touchdown pass from Cherry, a 5-yarder. That was also in the third quarter. So they went up 14-0 pretty quick in the third, and then win by that score. So I don't know, what to take from that. I know Cherry was picked off a couple times, and I don't know a ton of details at this point as far as what happened necessarily in that game. But Warren's got a really good. I mentioned it a lot on the videos we did this year, but their defensive line is very good. So anytime I always feel like that's maybe the most important position in my opinion on the field is defensive line. You can really control games if you've got a dominant one, and certainly Center Grove had one a couple of years ago. But if you have that, I mean that's a huge thing to have, and Warren does have that. So obviously their offense struggled this year, but maybe not a complete shock that they had some success defensively in that game. So anyway, that sets up a really great matchup next week. Talked about that. Westfield was another big story from tonight. They able to knock off HSC, and that's got to be a crushing situation for HSC. 24-21, Westfield won that game, and you don't count out to Westfield ever when Jay Gilbert's their coach. They find a way a lot of times to get it done. And man, that's a team that I covered their game against Brownsburg about mid-season, and they got absolutely throttled, and that's the only game they've lost this year. So, and it gets a really good schedule. So, tip your hat to that Westfield team. The Shamrocks are moving on into the semi-state, and they'll play. I believe it's. I'll have to check that here. It's Crown Point. Crown Point 34-33 beat Penn. So, it looks like another outstanding game in the North. So Crown Point will play Westfield next week. Not sure where that game's at this point, but Kendall Garnett had 3 touchdown runs, including a 51-yarder to put Westfield ahead in that game. So looked like a pretty good running game. That was 220 yards for Garnett. That's really good against that HSC defense that's been so good all year. So that's the end of the line for HSC. Really good, strong senior class. Thought we might see them at Lucas Oil, but it's not going to happen. It'll either be Crown Point or Westfield from the north side of that bracket, and either Center Grove or Ben Davis on the south side. So that'll be the matchups in 6A. Elsewhere, Decatur Central in 5A, 41-7. They beat Whiteland, the team that made it from the south last year in 5A. So the Hawks move on, dominating performance there by Decatur Central. And I know that was a closer game early. Looked like it was just 24-7 at halftime. But Decatur really ran the ball down Whiteland's throat, it looked like, in that game. So you can find more on this, obviously. IndyStar.com is a lot more information. Paul Shepard covered that game for us. But Decatur will be interested to read how they got it done there. The other in 4A, kind of the other big game we were looking at around here, New Pal 39-6 beat Mooresville. Not totally shocked by that, and a little surprised they shut Mooresville's offense down like they did. But 39-6, New Pal has been kind of just destroying teams here in the tournament. So New Pal will play East Central now. New Pal scored 27 points in the fourth quarter, so that game was a lot closer most of the way than it turned out to be. Chittard 35-6. They beat Delta. The Trojans move on in Class 3A. North Posey knocks out Triton Central. That'll be another tough loss to take for Triton Central. Just have not been able to have a lot of success in the regional round. So into the line for Triton Central, the Tigers were number 1 in 2A, but knew this North Posey team would be really tough. Lutheran just barely got past Providence, 14-7 in 1A. So the defending champs in 1A just kind of get it done. They scored all their points in the first half. Actually, Providence scored their points in the first half. So it was 14-7 at halftime and 14-7 at the end of that game at Lutheran tonight. So Lutheran moves on. Southmont beat Eastern Hancock 41-34. That was another game in 2A that we had our eye on. In 1A, Park Tudor gets beat 44-26 at North Judson. So the end of the line for the Panthers. Sheridan wins 24-20. Bud Wright's Blackhawks get the job done over North Decatur. 24-20. So that will do it from, or at least that's as I speak here. That's all the Central Indiana games for today. Tomorrow will be the other 3A game. Tri West will host Gibson Southern at 3 p.m. in Class 3A. So that will conclude the playoffs tomorrow. That's, I believe, the only game going on tomorrow anywhere. So, and that should be a really good one too. So Tri West at home. Looking around the state, any other scores that stand out? I know Northwood beat North Prairie in 4A. So East Central beat Evansville Memorial 47-7. So I mean, anything short of the playing the Colts, it seems like East Central just not, they're just not having much trouble. So Fort Wayne Snyder beat Mishawaka 19-18. I think that one came right down to the last play of the game. Merrillville beat Valpo 24-20, so be a new champ in 5A as well. So yeah, find a lot more on IndyStar.com. We'll have coverage, obviously, as we always do, into the weekend, and I'll be at the Tri West Gibson Southern game tomorrow. So again, thanks for joining us here, and like I said, check out everything at IndyStar.com.